All right, everybody, so welcome back to another episode of Colton Posey Fishing. Today we're going to be talking about 4 baits that I really like to use during the spawn. So if you're like me and you have a very hard time seeing because you're getting older and your eyesight's just going away, there's a few baits that I like to use. Number 1, to cover water, and number 2, look for fish that are either bedding or, you know, fixing to really bed, like they're fanning out their beds and stuff like that, but they're still active. So either way, we're going to go over these baits and stuff. Stay tuned. This is something you don't want to miss. All right, guys, so if you like this kind of content, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button. It helps me out a whole lot. Plus, I got you covered when it comes to anything bass fishing. Comment down below if you ever have any questions, or you just want to talk fishing, or you have suggestions to share with the community. It helps us all grow as anglers, including myself, because that's one fun thing about bass fishing. You never stop learning. So the first bait we're going to talk about is one that's very well known, and that's going to be a jig. Whether it's a round head, a football head, it doesn't really matter. This is definitely one of my go-to football jigs, has been for years, made by G Money Baits. But you can order off Tackle Warehouse, and everything will be linked down in the description. But you know, today we're fishing Lewis Smith Lake, and the lake it's clear in most spots, but in other spots it's got that pretty pea green color, like an English pea or something like that. But you know, so with it being, you know, more of a greenish color, I'm gonna go with like that green pumpkin brown with some orange in it, and I'm running the Yum Christy Crawl on the back of it as a trailer. I just cut that bait in half and then just button it right up. But any type of jig or anything like that, something that you know, you can kind of drag in front of those fish. But anyways, that jig, I'm typically going to be throwing that bait on those deeper banks, okay? And I'll drag it across flats from time to time. But I really like throwing it, like today, the lake, if you can't tell, it's just flooded. I mean, it's absolutely flooded. We had to walk through the water going down to the boat dock so we could get in the boat. And I mean, it's a very, very flooded area. So when that typically happens, I'm typically going to throw that football head jig, especially it's calm. I mean, it's super calm. We're talking post-front conditions. So it's warming back up. And, you know, just popping a jig this time of year. And if you haven't heard me refer to popping a jig, what that is when I throw that jig out there, I'm going to pop my rod. Just like that, just pop, pop. And what that does is it makes that jig hop, okay? It gives it a real natural presentation this time of year, especially when the water temperature's in that 70-degree range. Like today, we're dealing with 76-degree water temps. But either way, we're dealing with, you know, warmer water temps. So typically the fish are going to be more active. Now, a lot of these areas that we're fishing, we're noticing we're finding fish that are post-spawn, okay? I caught one earlier on that football head that was, it was pretty scrawny. And typically that tells me, especially in the bedding area, that fish is definitely post-spawn and is trying to move back out to the main so it can feed on herring or threadfin shad, whatever that fish typically likes to chase. This time of year, especially post-spawn, if you get real close to them, or the fish that are post-spawn, when you get real close to them, they'll typically bite anything, but sometimes it's really hard to get those fish to bite because they're so wore out from the spawn. But either way, a jig is a great way to pitch to isolated targets, skip under docks, you can throw it towards run-ins, you can do a little bit of everything with it, so make sure to pick you up a jig. Now, the next one that I want to talk about, this is one that I've used for years. It's just a straight up Yum dinger. Some people call it a sinko, but if you look, I've got it rigged kind of crooked. And I got it rigged crooked for a reason, okay? Because I'm typically going to use this bait for post-spawn, pre-spawn fish, and bedding fish. Bedding fish, it doesn't really matter if you rig it straight or you rig it crooked. But that little tip right there, rigging that sinko crooked, what happens is when I throw this bait out and it hits the water, instead of it falling straight down, it's going to spiral, okay? So it gives it a little bit of a different action when it's falling, and those fish that are post-spawn or pre-spawn, they typically react to that little bit of different action, a little bit of different movement. They get used to seeing these baits go straight down. So, you know, rigging your baits a little different. Don't be afraid to rig them crooked. How I figured this out was a buddy of mine was smoking some fish at a pond one day when we were kids, and I could not figure out why, because we were using the same bait. And when I looked at his bait, it was completely crooked. It was more crooked than this. And I realized when he threw that bait out there, it was spiraling. And what I ended up doing was rigging my bait crooked like that, and you know, it created that action where that bait spirals down, and I started catching fish too. So that's kind of where I picked that up on. And by the way, my setup for, you know, any type of like Texas rig, like I'm reeling or like I'm using right now, I'm going to use a 7-foot medium heavy, as close as you can get to it. Doesn't really matter as far as length. That's kind of up to you. I used to use the 7'6", but the 7-foot, to me, I have a lot more control, especially if I'm in tight areas. I ain't got to worry about getting hung up in trees and stuff near as bad. Or if I'm pitching, I'm not going to be hitting the water. But 7.3 to 1 gear ratio, I do like that faster gear ratio, because a lot of times you're going to dead stick that bait. Okay, and when you dead stick that bait and you get that bite, you got to catch up to that line real quick. So you can make up for the, not having the long rod to catch up by speeding up your gear ratio on your reel. If you are using a longer rod, like a 7'3", 7'6", or something like that, you may want to go to a 6/8 to 1 or a 7 1 to 1, something like that. But either way, I still suggest using a kind of higher speed, because a lot of times they're going to pick it up when that bait is just dead stuck. But the next one that I want to talk about, this is one that's going to be great for covering water, especially looking for pre-spawn and post-spawners, especially those post-spawners that are starting to get caught up. They've ate a good bit and they're starting to move around a little bit more, and that's going to be just a fluke, okay? A weightless fluke, weightless trick worm, anything that mimics that. Here's the thing, guys, don't get too caught up on the baits that I'm talking about, but the reasons that I'm using them. That's the reason that I go into explanations on why I'm using something. So anytime I'm talking about baits, don't get caught up so much on the bait. Typically, it's not the bait that catches the fish. Sometimes it is, but a lot of times it's not the bait that catches the fish, it's the confidence in the fisherman that's using that bait, okay? But a zoom fluke, X-Zone whiplash shad, it's kind of up to you. This time of year, I kind of like going, I really like going to the zoom fluke just because it's more darty than the X-Zone whiplash shad. And then I'm just typically going to Texas rig it on a regular like 3/0 hook, okay? Now this rod right here, go with a medium rod. This is an old 90s model rod. This was actually my mom's rod, so it's old all-star 6'6" medium action rod. That's typically what I like for fluke fishing, any type of medium rod that's short like that, where I can make those short pitches and skip docks and stuff a lot easier. But that's typically what I'm going to use this for. I'm going to use this to cover water on those big flats, or if I see fish going ahead and start chasing shad during the shad spawn and stuff, or skipping this bait under docks is going to be perfect. That sun gets up real high, the water may be a little clear and stuff. A lot of times these largemouth and stuff will push up under these docks, and using a fluke to skip up under these docks, you can pick apart 100 docks in no time. So either way, you got to try some type of top water weightless soft plastic. Now the last one that I want to talk about is one that I'm going to talk about just because we catch fish on them all the time. It's going to be that 3-inch swim bait, okay? Finesse setup, I'm going 10-pound braid, 8-pound fluorocarbon, and you can just cover a lot of water. You get back up in these little pockets and in these creeks and stuff that's got fresh water in it, you can just cover tons of water, especially if you find bass actively feeding on shad. Sometimes that's few and far between during the spawn. It just depends. If the fish are in full-blown spawn, you will not see as many fish chasing shad, because they're going to be on their beds, guarding their beds. But at other times, if you're in that middle spring kind of area like we're at right now, you can really kind of cover a lot of water with that and find fish that are migrating out and fish that are migrating in, fish that are stable in the backs of these creeks and stuff like that. It's just a great way to cover a lot of water and catch a lot of fish. But either way, guys, if the video helps you at all, make sure to like, subscribe. I got you covered when it comes to anything bass fishing. It helps me out a whole lot. Comment down below if you ever have any questions or you just want to talk bass fishing. I love hearing from you guys. If you want to help support the channel, I got sponsor links down in the description. Click on them. We got Salty Captain. Keeps all your stuff clean. Great boat wash product, vehicle wash product. They got a little bit of everything, and they got a wash gun, or a wash type thing called a musket, which is amazing, and it's a redneck's dream. So either way, also check out Vantage Tackle. All kinds of custom baits and stuff. I absolutely love their products, fell in love with their products. I don't typically get excited about companies sending me baits, because a lot of times it's just junk or just the same old cliche stuff. But I was actually super excited, and I've been running their stuff for about 3 weeks now, and amazing products, handmade by veterans. A lot of people are just blue collar guys, may work in a steel mill or something like that, just regular people like us. So make sure to check those guys out. Also, you can help support the channel by becoming a member. $2 a month. You get my videos up to a week early. Helps out a whole lot. Either way, guys, I'll see you next time.